consideration. No bills have been introduced. The House comes to questions for oral answer, and the first question is in the name of the Leader of the Opposition, David Shearer.
Thank you, Mr Speaker. To the Prime Minister, does he have confidence in all his ministers?
Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Mr Speaker, yes.
Supplementary question, David Shearer.
How can he have confidence in a minister who considers a breach affecting more than 80,000 confidential files from Canterbury households being similar, quote, to someone putting the wrong address on an envelope?
Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Well, Mr Speaker, in principle, if you were to post out the information that was emailed out, they'd be both going to an address, and if the address was wrong, the effect would be the same.
Supplementary question, David Shearer.
Thank you, Mr Speaker. In light of repeated breaches by MSD, ACC, Inland Revenue, Work and Income, Novo Pay, Corrections and now at EQC, will he admit that there is a systemic failure of information management across the government?
Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Mr Speaker, no. I think there's room for improvement, and the Chief Technology Officer is working with all of those departments to ensure that they follow best practice. But, Mr Speaker, we live in a world where technology is heavily used now, where people do email, and actually from time to time people make mistakes. If the member is saying that this member of EQC, who I understand just reading the newspaper today is a highly valued member, if the member is saying we should go and sack her, then that's a pretty high standard, and actually not one he held himself to account to.
Point of order.
That latter part of that answer was well off the question and actually was wrong in addition to that.
I think the question has been very adequately addressed. Further supplementary.
Given the number and magnitude of these breaches, including MSD, ACC, IRD, Work and Income, Nova Pay, Corrections and now at EQC, when will he instigate a policy across the government to protect confidential information rather than dismissing it, as he did yesterday when he said that, quote, all of us probably in our lives have sent an email by mistake?
Well,
Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Mr Speaker, we probably all have made mistakes. I mean, this member can't remember he's got a bank account offshore, but he's out there.
Order. Supplementary question. Order. The Leader of the Opposition has every right to ask his supplementary questions.
Thank you, Mr Speaker. In light of the repeated breaches by MSD, ACC, IRD, Work and Income, Novo Pay, Corrections and EQC, why hasn't it been made mandatory for all government agencies to follow the advice of their very own ICT agency policy to use C-mail or secure electronic environmental mail that is specifically designed to protect data when sending attachments?
Honourable Prime Minister.
Mr Speaker, very specific questions like that could be put down to the Minister, but my understanding is that is the policy. My understanding also is that the Chief Technology Officer will be, once again, reiterating to those departments that that's the process that should be followed. But I say, Mr Speaker, that in the modern world of modern technology, people will make mistakes.
Supplementary question, David Shearer.
What specific action will he take to give the public an assurance that their personal and private details are safe?
Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Well, I'm tempted, Mr Speaker, to say tell the Leader of the Opposition. He doesn't tell anyone about his private details.
Point of order, Mr Speaker.
Point of order.
I think if the Prime Minister thinks that this is somehow some trivial matter that he can palm off, he's wrong. And I would appreciate it if he could answer the question.
And I invite order. I invite the Leader of the Opposition to re-ask that question.
What specific action will he take to give the public an assurance that their personal and private details are safe?
Right, Honourable
Speaker,
Prime Minister.
as I said a couple of times in answering this question today, the Chief Technology Officer is working with all of the technology teams to ensure that they follow best practice, and that matter of upgrading security has been in play for quite some time. But people will make mistakes. Last week, that member wanted to beg this House...
Order, and that's not necessary to the answer today. Supplementary question, David Shearer.
Given that the leak of last week revealed that EQC has the information on claims at its fingertips, why are Cantabrians being kept in the dark waiting for months over the status of their EQC claims?
Right, Honourable Prime Minister. Well, Mr Speaker, I don't have all the details on what was available. But what I can say is, as what I understand, is that the person who emailed out that file did so in a way, not maliciously, not with the intent to embarrass other people, but they made a mistake. Last week, that member made a mistake.
Order.
I find this unbelievable. This is something...
Order. A point of order will be heard in silence.
Mr Speaker, this is 80,000 people's confidential email being available right across the public arena, and that Prime Minister will not answer a question.
But I'm not sure what the point of order is. I can help the member there. The member asked. The member asked about the Prime Minister's specific action that he'd take.
No, I asked about why that was that EQC had all the data, but we're not...
The Prime Minister's answer was that he didn't have that detail, and then went on to elaborate. Is this a point of order?
It is.
Point of order, right, Honourable Winston.
Mr Speaker, my point of order is, why are you allowing standing orders and Speaker's rulings to be flouted on this occasion 4 separate times, when the Prime Minister concluded his answer with an unqualified attack on someone else in the House? Each time you did precisely nothing.
No, that's...
So, no, sit down, I'm finishing it.
Order. The member will resume his seat. The member will resume his seat. The member... Thank you. On both occasions, I rose to my feet and told the Prime Minister his answer was well and truly completed. Point of order, Honourable Trevor Miller.
Mr Speaker, I think the question then is, what about the other 2 occasions? And if it's 3 strikes and we lose out, maybe the 4th time you could actually take some action?
A further point of order from the Right Honourable Winston Peters.
To complete what I was trying to say was that you cannot think that just by stopping him on 4 occasions that is an adequate response from the Speaker. Surely, after 3 warnings or 3 stoppages, you should have said that he should exit the House. Or is there a different set of rules for him and a different one for the rest of us?
No. Order. Right Honourable Prime Minister, speaking to the point of order.
I'm not going to litigate your ruling, Mr Speaker, but the very point I was making was that this person made an honest mistake. That's my point. That member claims he also made an honest mistake.
Thank you. That's not a point of order either. Does the member have further supplementaries to ask? Then order. We are... Order. I have attempted to be very patient and make sure that no one has had to leave the House during my time as Speaker, and I will continue to try and keep that patience, but it will not be helped if I get a barracking from either side of the House. I'm calling question number 2. Point of order, the Honourable Clayton Cosgrove.
Mr Speaker, with respect, what would stop the barracking is you have been asked to make a ruling. You simply didn't reply to Mr Peters. You didn't make a ruling on what action you would take, and that's why you received...
I did reply to Mr Peters. I've called question number 2, Pasata Sam Lotteringa.
It's called question...
Order. I have a further point of order from Dr Russell Norman. Is it a fresh point of order?
It's seeking clarity on your ruling, sir. are you ruling that the Prime Minister's answers were in order or not?
I'm ruling. I have covered that point, I think, quite adequately for the rest of the House, but for the benefit of the member, the Prime Minister certainly addressed the questions that were asked to my satisfaction, but he added political points towards the end, I think, of 2, and if Mr Peters says it was 4, it may have been more than 2 questions, that were certainly not helpful to the order of the House, as has been evidenced today. Question number 2, Pasata Sam Lotawinga.
Thank you, Mr Speaker. My question is to the Minister of Finance. What progress is the government making in its program to build a more competitive and productive